Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
So here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. I'm your host, Scott Alexander, and I am in a fabulous mood today. I feel great. And you know why? Because the Pels last night clinched their first playoff berth in 3 years. How about that against the LA Clippers? And it was only the second time they're going into the playoffs since 2011. They won their fourth in a row last night against the Clippers, and I got to tell you, that game was somewhat expected. Clippers had fallen out of the playoff race, but the way they did it, they just kind of dominated them starting in the third quarter on, and it was over. But the biggest win, and I think the biggest win in 7 years, was the game on Saturday night. That was Golden State, and that's a team that had beaten them 14 times in a row, the team that's been to the finals 3 years in a row and won it 2 of those years and really should have won the third one. They have been dominating the Pelicans, but last night, Saturday night, it was the Pelicans' turn to do damage on them, and it's been a team effort. Drew Holiday's been fantastic. Anthony Davis is doing what Anthony Davis does, and how about the work of a couple players? One being, hey, how about that guy right there, E'Twaun Moore? He's been 13 of 25 from threes in his last 4 or 5 games, and he is on fire, 7 for 7 in that game against Golden State. But it's Nico Mirotic. Nico Mirotic. Just last week on this show, my friend Ali Cosell was dogging him. Well, rightfully so, because this guy has risen from the dead. Literally, in his previous 13 games, he's averaged only 8.1 points a game. He only had 13 total threes. He had a total of 107 points in 13 games. But guess what? That New Testament beard you see right there, the Old Testament beard, I like to call it, well, he shaved that thing, as you know, on Wednesday. And since that moment, he's been on fire. How about these numbers in his last 4 games? 27 points a game. He's got 18 total threes in 4 games. That's 5 more than he had in those 13 games. He's got 4.5 of those a game. He is on absolute fire, and he has provided the spacing that the Pelicans have sorely needed. You know, it's easy to guard people when you don't have to guard the guys outside. You can guard the inside guys, but now he's given them that option. Once you're hitting outside shots, that opens everything up for the penetrators, the Drew Holidays, the Rajon Rondos, and obviously it alleviates double teams from Anthony Davis. Well done, Nico. Keep it up. They play the Spurs tomorrow night. That is a big one because that will likely determine where they're seated. It's most likely going to be 5th if they win, 8th if they lose to the Spurs. So that's a difference of playing the Jazz or the Rockets. Now, then again, they can still get home court, unlikely, if the Jazz lose tonight and tomorrow and the Pelicans beat the Spurs. We'll get into all that. We have Scott Kushner to talk about that. Also, how about this? We have Steve Worthy coming in. That's right, the Zurich director. He is coming back in for the 3rd straight year to talk about the Zurich Classic and also the Masters. And speaking of the Masters, how about this? It was another exciting Sunday afternoon. It was phenomenal. Sunday afternoons for the Masters Sundays are one of my favorites of the year. And they didn't disappoint. Once again, Augusta National, such a beautiful place. You see all the beautiful shots right there. But how about this? Patrick Reed. Everybody was talking on Sunday about how he's a Texan and how he went to Georgia, got kicked out, went to Augusta State. Well, guess what? He graduated right here in Louisiana. He went to high school at U-High. He's a U-High Cub from Baton Rouge. He did a lot of his growing up there. So they can claim that in Louisiana. You have a Masters winner right there. Congratulations. This guy is a bulldog on the course, and he's coming right here for the Zurich Classic. I cannot wait to see him in 2 weeks. Well, actually, yeah, about 2 weeks. How about this also? Ricky Fowler. This guy finished in the top 5 2 years ago in each major. He is so close. He's never won a major, but he finished second with a very strong Sunday. And I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of this young man's career. Jordan Spieth, who was at the Zurich last year, well, he finished third with an incredible 64 he shot on Sunday. What a great, that was the best round of the entire tournament. And how about Spieth, though? In his last 4 years, he finished first, second, and third in the Masters. He is truly one of golf's greats. Jon Rahm, the Spaniard, finished fourth. Another guy that's coming to the Zurich, and I cannot wait to see this big fella. He can rake it, and I'm looking forward to watching him in a couple weeks. Rory McIlroy was the guy I picked to win, although I was rooting for Patrick Reed. Rory McIlroy was right there on Sunday, only 3 strokes behind in second place. Didn't do so well on Sunday. He finished fifth. Nothing to sneeze at there. Rory still remains one of the greatest players in the world. All the other guys that did well, how about the big ties with Rory for fifth? You have Bubba Watson, who's coming to the Zurich. Henrik Stenson, who's coming to the Zurich. Cameron Smith, who won the Zurich last year and obviously is coming back. And speaking of that guy, Henrik Stenson, one of my favorite combinations. They didn't even make the cut at the Zurich last year, but Henrik Stenson and Justin Rose will definitely be back as partners, and I'm looking forward to that. Rose finished 12th in the Masters. Justin Thomas, who's been finishing in the top 5 in almost every tournament, he only finished 17th in the Masters, still great. And he will be another one at the Zurich Classic coming up. Hey, how about this? LSU and Tulane. Let's start with Tulane. They're both in the final stages of spring practice right now. Tulane's spring game is going to be this weekend. I'm so glad that they did this for us in the media and fans of both schools like myself, because they put their spring games on different weekends. Tulane's is going to be this Saturday, and LSU is going to be the following Saturday on April 21st. And believe it or not, Las Vegas odds have come out, and LSU, losing all those players, still has the 11th best odds in the country to win the national championship. That is kind of surprising, considering they also have the toughest schedule in America. I guess they're assuming that they win those games, well, then they're going to have a nice resume. But you got to win them first. They did it in 2011 when everybody doubted them. They had the strongest regular season, I think, in NCAA football history. Then they lost Alabama in the championship. Let's move gears to baseball. How about the Baby Cakes? They are on absolute fire. They got raked 11-0 in their opener, and it's like, oh no, here we go again. Au contraire, mon frère, because this team has won 4 in a row, and they won the one last night against the Nashville Sound. So they are on a roll. Get on out and check your Baby Cakes out in the spring. And speaking of baseball, today a New Orleans legend, Rusty Staub, was laid to rest in New Orleans, and they prefer to call this a celebration of life. Rusty Staub, a Jesuit graduate, obviously is the only player in Major League Baseball history to have 500 hits with 4 different teams. Think about that one. Pretty remarkable. Le Grand Orange is now moving forward, and he is actually going to have 5 celebrations of life around the country. And New Orleans today was the first. He's going to be the West Coast tomorrow. They're going to do stuff all around the country. He is truly beloved, not just by the sporting world, but also the culinary world. He became a great, great chef and a wine master as well. Hey, we got a great show for you. I just mentioned Steve Worthy. He's going to talk all about the Great Zurich Classic coming up. We know you want your Pels talk. I got Scott Kushner, the beat writer for The Advocate, to come in here and talk. And also, well, I got Sharief Ishaq, because we're going to cover it all with him. Saints, we missed it last week, but we're going to get all over the free agents this week, and we're going to talk about some draft possibilities and things like that, and it's going to be a fun show. Stay tuned right here for Primetime Sports.
Something's coming. Experience golf like never before. Right here at the Zurich Classic. The greatest golfers from around the world playing in 2-man teams. The only event like it on the PGA Tour. It's team combat with explosive drives and iron shots, attacking every flag. It's exciting. It's action-packed. It's the second Battle of New Orleans, the Zurich Classic.
Welcome back to Primetime Sports, and you saw that commercial there. That is a gorgeous spot for the Zurich Classic, which is coming up in about a week and a half, and I cannot wait. On the heels of the Masters, golf is on everybody's mind. We know the playoffs for the Pels is, and we're going to talk to Scott Kushner in a second. Obviously, the draft is also in a couple of weeks, and we're going to talk to Sharief Ishaq about all that and more. But right now, it's golf, and I cannot wait. The Masters this past weekend, obviously won by Baton Rouge native and U-High graduate Patrick Reed, who's coming to the Zurich. And that adds some excitement, but so many people that were littered in the top 10 and even top 15 and beyond are coming to New Orleans in about a week, and it's going to be an exciting time. And the guy who runs it all, the tournament director for the Zurich Classic for the third straight year, is joining us. His name? Well, it's Steve Worthy, and here he is right here again. Hey, buddy.
Scott, how are you?
How you doing, man?
Outstanding.
LSU graduate, a guy like myself who left for several years and came back, and now you've been back about 6.5, 7 years. How you liking it?
Loving it. It's nice to be home. Reconnect with a lot of friends and family that I stayed in touch with. I moved all over the country, and there's no place I'd rather live than here. So I'm glad to be back.
I mean, we truly do know what it means to miss, and I hate to say it that way. New Orleans. No, but let's talk about the Masters first. Yeah, Patrick Reed, I have to ask you a question, because a guy like you who's got his tournament coming up in a couple of weeks, when you're watching the Masters, you have to have some kind of thing like, I really kind of hope maybe some of these guys win, so we'll have some more clout and prestige when the tournament starts. What are you thinking when you're watching a big tournament like that?
Well, as a golf fan, I always enjoy just watching guys hit clutch shots and the drama of the event. But, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I had a little rooting interest in making sure that the Masters champ was going to be in New Orleans in a couple of weeks. So,
were you surprised about Patrick Reed? I mean, what's your thoughts about him in general as a golfer and your experiences with him?
Well, I've always been a big fan from the standpoint that, again, like I said, I like anybody who's clutch. And the Ryder Cup match he had with Rory McIlroy was maybe the best golf, certainly the best 9 holes of golf I've ever seen. Everybody was kind of discounting him on Saturday night. And given how tough he is, how clutch he is, he wasn't going away. And, was really happy knowing that he was coming back here this year. And having been a fan, I wasn't at all surprised to see him hold up well and close it out.
I'm all in on Patrick Reed, because there's a lot of people that are turned off by some of his brashness, and he says it like it is, and I think that's refreshing, especially when you can back it up, and he's been backing it up a lot lately, but this is a very big get for a guy that's just won the Masters to come to New Orleans.
Well, it is. I mean, he made the famous statement, I feel like I'm a top 5 player,
right,
when he had won the big event. And, he's been one of the elite. And certainly he would be considered as good a Ryder Cup player as there is in modern history. I mean, he's 6-1-2. He's had some big matches. Because of some of the Louisiana ties, we're thrilled to have him come back to New Orleans. He and Patrick Cantley played together last year and played well. And the fact that they're coming back with a green jacket is a very good thing.
All right, I got to ask you, some news just came out. I believe it was yesterday. I heard about it yesterday. Baseball has been doing this for about 2 decades, maybe 2.5 decades, somewhere around there. But the walk-up music, when baseball players walk up to the plate, you hear their favorite song. Chipper Jones used to have Crazy Train by obviously Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne. You guys, golf, they've never done it before as far as I know, but y'all are going to do it at the Zurich Classic?
We are. It's it's not been done on the PGA Tour before, and because we're a little different with the team atmosphere, getting the guys together to pick the song that they want to choose, it just kind of connects them with the fans. It shows some of their personality. We announced it yesterday, and the Twitter and social media reaction was unlike anything I've ever seen. Certainly about the Zurich Classic. Guys throwing out polls on what song should we choose. Comments from all the fans. It's been a lot of fun. It's gotten a lot of attention.
Radio
shows.
National. Yeah,
exactly.
Radio shows across the country talk about. I mean, it's only on the first hole, right?
Correct. It'll only be Saturday, Sunday on the first tee.
Saturday, Sunday on the first tee. So that, I guess more people will be watching that first tee now, because that actually gets some juice into it.
Well, it will. We've worked out kind of the script, and they'll announce the team. Announce Justin Rose, and now on the tee, the team of Justin Rose and Henrik Stenson. And it'll be a 10-second clip, and they'll walk up to the tee and put it in the ground and hit it. So, we think it's going to be fun. A lot of, just all the speculation about what songs different guys are going to pick.
I know.
It's just one more thing that connects the fans and our players and shows some personality. So,
Steve, I got to ask you. You just mentioned Justin Rose, Henrik Stenson, obviously 2 of the best golfers in the world. One's number 5, one's number 15. They didn't make the cut last year. So I have to ask you, because this team format's so popular, what were their thoughts? Because they didn't make the cut, but they're happy to be back.
I can tell you, Henrik, I went out in September and went to the Northern Trust event in New York. And I walked up to Hendrick just to thank him for coming. And before I could get a word out, I know, I can't believe we missed the cut. He was really bummed about it. And so, he and Justin have been longtime Ryder Cup partners. They've played together before. We're both very disappointed to have missed the cut and certainly plan on doing a lot better this year.
Yeah. By the way, the team format, obviously super popular. Where has it gone from your, I don't want to say apprehension, but your anxiousness going into last year's tournament for the first time doing it, and where it is now in your mind?
Well, the reception, we were hopeful that it would be very well received, and it probably exceeded our expectations last year. And there's still continuing to be buzz. There are a lot of new players that we haven't seen in New Orleans in the last 8-10 years who are coming this year. And that's always a great thing. It speaks to the fact that, a lot of guys, just they enjoy the format, they enjoy doing something different. I know we'll touch on some players, but I'll use Jim Furyk as an example.
Yeah.
In recruiting him, he said there were 8 players who came to him and talked about how much fun it was, how different it was.
Really?
And to have some big name players buzzing about it obviously is great for us. So, we feel like it was very well received. We'll have another great year this year, and we think it's something we'll continue to build on.
And by the way, speaking of cachet, Furyk obviously is the Ryder Cup captain this year, so that's also nice. Hey, I'm going to give you the floor now because you have so many great players. Instead of me just start naming individually, why don't you kind of go over some of the ones and why you're excited about that particular person being here?
Sure. Well, touching on Jim Furyk as the Ryder Cup captain, because we're a team event and the Ryder Cup is played at Team Golf, we're thrilled to have him. He can talk to some of his players and, do a little forecasting and prep work for the fall, for the Ryder Cup this fall. But, we go from Justin Thomas and Bud Cauley, 2 Alabama guys, but Justin's number 2 in the world, played well at Augusta. They tied for 5th last year, so, we're happy to get them back. You've got John Rahm, who's number 3 in the world, played well at Augusta.
Love John Rahm.
He is so passionate and so much fun to watch. He's playing with Wesley Bryan. Strange. It's interesting to see how some of the pairings come together. I know they're very close friends. John went to Arizona State. Wesley went to South Carolina. There's an 8 or 9 year age gap. But they're really close friends on the PGA Tour and chose to play together.
That was my next question because you know what? It is fun. I love when you see some teammates from college. Sure. I love when you see the old friends or maybe the countrymen together or maybe even guys from 2 countries like Stinson and obviously we just talked about Justin Rose. But some of these pairings I'm looking at, how did they come up with these?
It's interesting, and that was one that was kind of unusual. We've got everybody from Bubba Watson with Matt Kuchar. They've played together in Ryder Cup. Bubba's a past champ here. Matt has not been here in 9 or 10 years, so we're thrilled to get him back. But Bubba's already won twice this year and is climbed back up in the world rankings. Patrick Reed with Patrick Cantley. I don't know the history behind that. They played well here last year and are coming back again this year. There are a lot of different kind of pairings. Sergio Garcia and Rafa Cabrera Bello, they played together last year or at the last Ryder Cup as a team and played well together. So I think they view this as a chance to get a little practice work in. It'll be, the Europe has kind of dominated the Ryder Cup for the last 16,
They've been doing well,
years.
put it that way.
They have, and we, the U.S. won in Minnesota 2 years ago, and so this year will be very, very competitive, and I think they view that as a chance to get in a little practice. I'm sure we'll probably see them together in Paris in the fall.
Well, you've already mentioned several former Masters winners, obviously one of them being Sergio last year and obviously Patrick this year and some others, but even some lesser-known guys, Zach Johnson, who I got the pleasure of walking a whole course with inside the thing at the Tour Championship probably 15 years ago when he was just starting, him and Charles Schwartzel, both Masters champions.
True.
You got a bunch of these guys coming.
It's a very deep field. Schwartzel is playing with Louis Oosthuizen. They're both South Africans. Louis won the British Open. As well, though he lost in the Masters in a playoff to Bubba. Then he lost to Zach Johnson in a playoff at the British Open or Open Championship. So he's got a lot of major championship pedigree. Zach is playing with Jonathan Bird. They both live in the Sea Island, Georgia area. So that's the friendship hook there.
Great graduate.
Zach
Johnson.
Hey,
how many people didn't he go to Drake?
He did go to Drake.
I was pretty sure of that.
Not many people know that. But everybody from Steve Stricker. Steve Stricker, we announced him today, playing with Jerry Kelly, 2 Champions Tour guys. It's funny, they're 1 and 2 on the Champions Tour money list. Stricker has won 2 Champions Tour events this year.
President's Cup captain, right?
President's Cup, the last President's Cup team captain. So well versed in team golf and a longtime Ryder Cupper. It's a very deep field. We've got young guys, we've got older guys. We still got a lot of good guys to announce still in the next week and a half or so. So we're thrilled with where the field stands right now.
Steve, what I love also, I mean, is that you obviously have the great players that you know, but this is also a breeding ground for future greats. Because so many guys I've seen that have won this tournament, you know, have blossomed and become great players. You know, last year it was Cameron Smith.
Correct.
And he's such a little guy. Him and Justin Thomas are so small, but this guy can belt it. He's coming back with Jonas. Is Jonas going to play with him again?
They are. They're partnering again, defending their championship. Yeah, Cameron has really risen up the world ranks, played great at Augusta. You know, we see him as a rising star. I mean, you could go back to Jason Duffner won here, went on to win the PGA Championship. Billy Horschel won here in 2013. We were his first win, went on to win the Tour Championship. You know, we've had a lot of guys who have won here and gone on to great success, and we're happy to get them all back.
And that's an interesting one, too, because once again, if I'm not mistaken, one, Cameron Smith is Australia.
Correct.
And the other is from Sweden?
Sweden.
So, I mean, you get these countries mixing up. It's interesting.
That connection is Jonas's roommate is Cameron Smith's caddy.
Oh, wow.
And that's how they got together. You know, we had them at Media Day, and I asked, you know, have the two of you played golf together since you played in New Orleans? And they said, yeah, they have. I was kind of wondering, you know, how much they saw each other. They both live in Jacksonville.
You mentioned one guy, obviously, you brought up Bubba Watson and Kuchar. Bubba's been such a fan favorite here. Obviously, he loves New Orleans. He loves the passion this city has. How important is it to get a guy like that to continue to be a champion and ambassador for Cumming?
Well, it's huge. I mean, you know, we were his second win, and he went on to be an elite player and win the Masters twice. But, you know, growing up in the Pensacola area, he views us as his hometown event, and that's a wonderful thing. You know, so he feels connected to New Orleans. He's a past champ. You know, bringing Matt Kuchar back, that's a wonderful thing. But, you know, Bubba, the word is Bubba, you know, he owns a car dealership. He owns the minor league baseball team in Pensacola. He's going to be bringing back 100 or so employees coming from Pensacola to follow him.
Our show is
all
on in
wearing
Pensacola, by the way. This show's on in Pensacola, so I might need to talk to Bubba about that car sponsorship. Bubba, what's up? Hey, by the way, who are the most fun guys? I mean, you know, you get to know them on a different level than the rest of us. Who stands out to you as just being so much fun to hang out with?
You know, Billy Horschel has a big personality. It's always a lot of fun. You know, I know we overlap Jazz Fest. Charlie Hoffman, he wants to go to Jazz Fest every year. He's had a great,
I love that.
Great record of playing well here. So if he ever misses the cut, he wants to go. But even after he plays, he wants to go.
And
so
he was on fire on the weekend, this past weekend.
He made a hole-in-one on 16 at Augusta, and went crazy. It was fun to see his reaction. You know, I will say that almost all of the guys are very good guys. Some are a little more outgoing and personable, but they're all nice. Some are a little more reserved, but they're a lot of fun guys.
Got to ask you about our local favorite before I let you go. Sure. Smiley Kaufman. I'm rooting for Smiley. He's an LSU guy. What do you think about this young man?
I'm a big Smiley fan. He's another good personality. You know, fun guy. He's actually getting married this weekend. And,
wow.
You know, he typically goes on the trip to the Bahamas with Justin, Jordan Spieth, and Ricky Fowler. And I was talking to some of the guys, and they said, well, our spring break trip this year is Smiley's wedding.
I walked the course with his dad last year with his good friend John Brady. I didn't know his dad before that, but John Brady and him are very tight from John's Birmingham days coaching at Sanford. So anyway, hey, I got to thank you. I need you to get over to this place because you're going to love it. It's Chez de la Chaise on Maple Street.
Wonderful.
Between Carrollton and Broadway, and I cannot wait. Steve, you're doing a phenomenal job with the tournament.
Thank you so much.
You really are. It's become a must-watch and go visit event, and that's largely in part to you. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Steve Worthy, check out the Zurich Classic. You saw that cool commercial right before we came on. It is a wonderful, wonderful event. Trust me, I know you love Jazz Fest and all the other stuff going on, the NFL draft. Carve out a day or two to get over there. You won't be regretting it. Hey, coming up next, it's all Pelicans talk. We're going to talk Saints, too. Don't forget, last week, well, one of my guests didn't show up, so I didn't get it in. I promise you this show, we will get that Saints talk in about the free agents in the draft. But next, it's all Pelicans. Beat writer Scott Kushner from The Advocate will join us right here on Primetime Sports.
The owners of the De La Chaise Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez de la Chaise, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez de la Chaise, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At Mid-City Lanes, the home of rock and roll.
Cayman is an all-natural alligator oil that treats anything concerning your skin from head to toe. Cayman oil is antibacterial, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, and helps with ailments, including burns, severe acne, athlete's foot and toe fungus. Cayman oil also helps with everyday issues such as healing cuts and scrapes, as well as spider and mosquito bites. It also does wonders quickly clearing up scars, dry scalp, psoriasis, and eczema. And it's made right here in Louisiana. More information is available online at caymanoil.com or amazon.com. Welcome back to Primetime Sports, and I'm laughing because I'm excited. And I'm excited because the Pelicans are in the playoffs for the first time in 3 years and only the second time since 2011. And I'm going to get right to it because I have their beat writer, Scott Kushner, who I've known since I moved back to town. He's covered Tulane, he's covered everything, but now he's been covering the Pels for a couple of years now, but certainly every single day he watches their games. He knows them in and out. And welcome back to the show. I haven't had you on since the preseason, but now, did you expect them to be right where they are right now?
Not when DeMarcus got hurt. I can tell you, I thought they'd be a playoff team if DeMarcus was able to stay healthy. What they were able to do in remaking themselves is really impressive, though, and surprised. I think anybody who watches the NBA and watches the Western Conference, when they saw DeMarcus go down, said, well, where do they fit in now? There's really, you got 10 good teams. You got really.
Well, the point, Utah hadn't started winning yet. So
that's true.
People are like, oh, they have a chance because Utah's 11 games below. Yeah. Little did we know they win 48 games in a row.
They win every night. Yeah, so you thought that. But even then, with Denver right there, it just didn't seem like there was a place for them. And they had only recently played well at all. It had been totally 500 basketball until that last 10 games with DeMarcus, and all of a sudden they started playing well. And then it all fell apart, and then they lost 4 or 5, and it was like, oh, the season's over. The season's over. Everyone's getting fired.
Well, certainly Jeff Duncan thought so. He went public on it. He's like, season's over. I'm like, hold on. Maybe I'm a little too half glass full, but the Clippers ain't so great. People forget until their recent slide, the Clippers had won 30 out of 45 games. They got on a roll. So it still looked like they might have a shot because these other teams, but then they started getting hot. But you have to give some credit to the coaching, right? Because let me say this, because Dell Demps and particularly Alvin Gentry get gunned. Both of them do. And when things are going bad, they always get blamed. But can we at least give them a little credit now that they've got him in the playoffs? And by the way, since Boogie's been out, they're 7 games over 500 since then.
Yeah, it almost feels in some ways as if this is a totally different team. In the second half of the season. These guys, while DeMarcus is popular in that locker room, he does command a ton of attention on the floor. You have to get him the ball. You have to set up sets for him. You have to do a lot to keep DeMarcus engaged on a play-by-play
good point.
basis.
Great point.
And that really kind of disappeared in the second half of the season, where they were able to kind of turn this whole thing into Anthony Davis's show with Drew Holiday sort of playing his Robin. And it worked really well.
Probably better than most everybody expected.
Everybody. Drew Holiday has been better than everybody expected. When he signed that contract for $125 million offseason, everyone in the league's media was killing them for this being incredibly overpriced.
And they don't have 35 wins if he's not on the team.
They don't. They do nothing. They're back where they were when Anthony Davis was in the second year.
Right.
They're nowhere without him. He has been fantastic defensively, and the pick and roll combination with him and Davis really turned into something after DeMarcus got hurt, and they realized that was where they can make their bread and butter. And they also picked up the pace to levels that they're the highest in the NBA. So you utilize Rondo in that regard, you utilize Anthony Davis being able to run the floor. This was kind of what Alvin Gentry envisioned when he got here, with Niko Mirotic playing that
exactly what he envisioned.
With Niko Mirotic playing that Ryan Anderson role, and those guys sort of playing off each other the rest of the way, and it's worked.
Can I bring up this since you brought it up? Drew Holiday's defense.
It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because first of all, I know blocks are just one part of defense, and it's not the main part. particularly in a perimeter guy.
Yeah.
But the 2 blocks that he had against Portland, I mean, granted they lost the game, but not because of what he did. Defensively, that dude was on fire. That one block was a Dame Lillard going to the thing.
Yeah.
I know Connaughton at the end.
Yeah.
But the one he came all the way back. There it is, right there. That's the block.
Yeah.
What a good producer I have.
How do you get your hand on that ball?
That's the thing. And he came from way back, and Lillard was on fire in this game, just killing the
scored 45 points.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the only reason they were still in the game. Each Moore missed a pair of three-pointers at the end. But last night, I mean, to show the versatility, the last 2 games, he covered Kevin Durant in the last 3 minutes to beat Golden State. Kevin Durant smoked everybody else in that team the entire night. Yeah. Solomon Hill couldn't cover him. Niko Mirotic couldn't cover him. AD couldn't cover him. No one could cover him. They put Drew Holiday on him. Basically, I asked some of the coaches, I was like, what, how did you end up with Drew on? They're like, we kind of ran out of choices. They're like, we didn't have another body on the floor who could cover him. We needed AD to be in the post and to grab rebounds. So we went with Drew, and he covered him. He's 5 inches, 6 inches shorter than Kevin Durant. And then last night, he's matched up on, I think, 3 possessions on a row on Montrezl Harrell, who's like 7 feet, and he blocks his shot. He kind of lets him run by and blocks him from behind. He is a savant defensively this year, and I wrote it 3 weeks ago. I think it is now well known in the NBA. He should be first-team all-defense.
He's got to be.
If he's not a contender, he should be in the top few for Defensive Player of the Year as well. He has been spectacular, not only in what he's done on the ball, but just the way that he's switched and the versatility he's shown has changed his whole team.
As great as Mirotic has been lately, and he's been super hot since he shaved the beard, as great as Drew Holiday's been, as great as AD is, the reason I'm really excited about the playoffs is because of playoff Rondo. And I'm going to tell you this. Rondo, I was on it when my first thought when they got him was like, oh no, not another locker room, temperamental, potentially hothead guy when things go bad. But I talked to enough of my friends around the league that have been around for a long time. They're like, no, you're getting a guy that's going to open things up for them. And I started remembering old Rondo, and I'm like, if they can keep him happy, and he's got all the Kentucky buddies around. And here's the thing, there's no doubt he's been up and down. When he's been great, he's been phenomenal. He's disappeared a few times. He's had a couple injuries. But the fact is, in the playoffs, this guy turns it on. Even last year with the Bulls, they almost beat the Celtics. They won the first 2 games against the Celtics, who was the first seed, right?
Yeah.
And then they ended up losing, but Rondo got hurt. And that's it. So playoff Rondo and regular season Rondo might be 2 different things.
And that is a lot of what they're banking on. But you've seen sort of that playoff Rondo the last few games. In this streak, he's 15, 17 assists. He is always running. The difference is that if he makes a couple of shots and creates a little bit of space, that does wonders for this team. And when he actually locks in and plays defense, not the thing where he lets everyone go by him and tries to backpick steals, that kills them defensively. And that's a lot of the reason when he's had bad nights, that's what it's come from. When you see the team is up 10 and he's minus 15, you're going, how the heck did that happen? It's because his defense is a joke sometimes. But when he gets into those big game situations, he can still be a pretty good defender, and he can get steals. And when he ripped that one from Kevin Durant.
That's the one. You took the words out of my mouth because that might have been, you can argue that might have been the biggest play of the year, certainly defensively.
Yeah.
They're up 2. All the momentum is in the Warriors' favor, and Kevin Durant just sizing him up. He's trying to figure out how I'm going to post this dude up.
Yeah.
And he just rips him.
Yeah.
And then obviously Etuan Moore hits the shot, but that was as good as it gets. That's the Rondo you hope to have.
That's the Rondo, and the other place he comes in big when he is engaged defensively is long rebounds. He finds a way to those long rebounds, and not only does it a rebound, it keys a fast break. And if you can get Anthony Davis rolling from that point, that is a total game changer of Rajon Rondo getting the rebound and running, and he's 3/4 of the way down the floor, and he's as good of a passer as you're going to find in the league, and he sees the floor at full speed better than most guys see it, kind of sitting at the top row looking at, from a bird's eye view.
And the respect he gets from the veterans, like you're watching Paul Pierce, his former teammate, talking about just how amazing this guy is, when he's clicking, he's important. We all know how cerebral he is. If you follow basketball, one of the highest basketball IQs, obviously, in the game. But when he's engaged, he's great. But let's go further, because if you watch this show, we air it all week. So if you're watching it on Thursday or Friday or Saturday, you already know the playoff matchups. But as of taping today, because our first airing is Tuesday, we don't know. The Pelicans could be anywhere from 4 to 8. And that's amazing. Most likely 5 or 8. Because Utah would have to lose twice to get that home court advantage at 4. So going into this, they play the Spurs. So it's either most likely a first-round matchup with the Utah Jazz, who you haven't had much luck with at all, although I feel a lot better, or the Houston Rockets, which is a buzzsaw. And I know travel-wise it might be easier for you to go to Houston. But fact is...
That's not what most people are worried about now.
But talk about how important the Spurs game is.
It's huge. It's the difference between this team showing that they are really growing into something that is an important building block going forward. You can win actual playoff games. You can be in an actual series versus you're sort of a sacrificial lamb on the Rockets' way to the conference finals, which is basically where New Orleans was in 2015. It doesn't feel like a ton of growth for Anthony Davis. But if you get the 5 seed, if you're in a 7-game series, if you're in a 6-game series, whatever it is where you feel like you have a legitimate chance, that is different than 2015. And this team and the growth that he's shown, and this is a perfect example of what's happened right now. We have talked about the Pelicans for 10 minutes, and we've somehow not really talked about how good Anthony Davis is.
No, I know.
Because everyone sort of expects it.
Right.
You walk into these games and you go, oh, he scored 35 and had 14 rebounds. That's what you get from AD. Let's talk about Rondo. Let's talk about Drew. Let's talk about Nico. And it's like, no, you need this guy to score 35 points every single game that you win, and he does it more often than not. And Alvin Gentry mentions it, and all those teammates are like, yeah, we just kind of lean on AD to this unbelievable level. And it's almost as if it's expected, and that is a sign of greatness. That's what LeBron does. That's what James Harden does, is when you expect 30 points and he delivers most of the time.
As much as I love New Orleans, and having lived a lot of places, I think it's the greatest city in the world. We have some negative Nellies in this town. I mean, it's unbelievable, and I feel like I'm positive on Twitter and all that because I have to offset some of this. I mean, the sky was falling a week ago. It was 1 week ago today that they had lost 4 in a row. And I sat there and I made a joke with my friend. It wasn't even a joke. I really felt it. I said, they're going to win the next 5. He's like, you got free food forever if they do. And I've been 1 down, 2 down, 3 down. And not saying they're going to beat the Spurs. Now they're 4 down. And so point being is this city loves to embrace the failure. And we love the success too.
Sure.
But
they ride the wave.
They ride the wave like nobody's business, correct?
Ride the wave.
I mean, you see it.
You would have thought some of those demons would have disappeared when the Saints won the Super Bowl and got really good and all those things.
But then they had a bunch of 7 and 9s and they came right back.
And just everybody came back. Right. And I don't entirely get it. I get it from if you are a hardcore NBA fan, Pelicans, Hornets, whatever, in this city, and you've won 1 series in this many years, and you've watched Chris Paul walk out the door, you've watched most of Anthony Davis's tenure sort of slip away. I get the feeling that the sky is falling from time to time. You also, though, when they are playing this way, and the problem is they do this.
They do that.
It's not they don't win 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5. It's they win 7 in a row and they lose 4 in a row.
Earlier in the year, it was the opposite. They didn't have any 3-game winning streaks.
Well, it was all,
no 3-game losing streaks, and all of a sudden it's like this thing right now. But hey, before I let you go, I do have to bring up Anthony Davis. I mean, by the way, Utah has won 15 of the last 16 road games. Think about that. I'm not sure I really want part of Utah. Maybe we hope there's some shuffling
up. And it's a bad matchup
and they
with
get
Gobert.
OKC or somebody else. But AD, obviously in his 6th year, I noticed this certainly during the streak. He's finally the guy you can almost completely count on, like a la Jordan when you needed a shot at the end of the game. He certainly showed it in that series. I know he had the ankle issue, so he was a little sluggish in that losing streak. But what is your take on him and his maturation as a player overall?
I think you see it by how how his teammates respond to him. It is very much, this is the guy. And it's so obvious when you watch him walk out of the locker room. It's obvious when you watch him in an offensive set. Everything kind of revolves around him now, and he gets it. He's been the face of the franchise for several years, but now he is the voice in that locker room. And the nice part for him is he doesn't have to do it alone. There was a time where he kind of had to do it alone. He had a lot of quiet guys and him, who was also quiet. But now he's got Rondo. Drew sort of stepped up to the plate, and for a while he had DeMarcus. And DeMarcus is still an important piece there, but he doesn't have to do it alone. And I think that's really helped him, and it's made him sort of understand his role. And I think Rondo has sort of coached him into that.
15 seconds or less. Is DeMarcus back next season?
I believe so.
He's back.
I believe so.
Yeah, it's going to be a train. I mean, this is
they want him, and he wants to be back. So usually you can make the numbers work when that's the case.
Hey, man, speaking of making it work, your job, you've been amazing. I'm serious. I'm giving you this heart to heart. I read you first. When I read all the Pelicans articles, you're doing a fabulous job, and you did it with Tulane as well, so you should know where this is. Shays de la Shays on Maple Street. How about that segue?
Close to the house. I'll be
there. How
there.
about that segue?
There you
So
go.
check it out. If it's close to the house, I might give you another one. Because you did come out of your way. This dude had so many articles to write today, obviously, with the Pels' biggest game of the year, other than Golden State, is tomorrow night for seeding. Golden State got him in pretty much. This one is to where they're going to play and who they're going to play. And he made the time to come, so I appreciate you.
Thanks, Scott.
And I will get you another one. Hey, Scott Kushner's there. Check him out at The Advocate, of course, and he's on Twitter at Scott D. Kushner, as opposed to D. Scott Alexander. Anyway, we're coming up next. We're going to talk some Saints because I got my man Sharief Ishaq. I know Scott knows him well. He is coming up. He's a Shaw grad. He's also an LSU guy as well, but he's going to talk Saints football, and we're going to get into some LSU, maybe a little spring football, maybe a little bit of LSU baseball and some other stuff like that. But that's coming up next right here on Primetime Sports. Stay tuned. Got that. Welcome back to Primetime Sports. I got to thank my man Scott Kushner. You got your Pelicans filled with him just now. And also Steve Worthy. Don't forget, get on out to the Zurich Classic. We just had the tournament director on, and he was fabulous talking about all the stars that are coming here, including the last couple Masters winners. And he might have a surprise. He's not out of the bag yet. Jordan Spieth is not announced yet. But I have a good feeling that Jordan Spieth will also be back at the Zurich Classic as well. But coming up right here, I cannot wait. We have my man Sharief Ishaq. He is over there at WDSU, Channel 6 with Fletcher Mackel. They do a great job. Most news sports groups have 3 people, sometimes 4. These two do it with 2. You know how hard that is? With days off, you don't get many. You got to work weekends. You got to do it all. And I'm very impressed with how they handle it. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Appreciate it, Scotty.
You doing all right?
Yeah, man, doing good.
And I know with a 2-man group, you got to work a lot, so I appreciate you taking the time to come.
No problem, man. I love talking sports. Don't matter. Whatever you want to talk about, man. 2-man group. We don't have the time sometimes, but I'll always make time to talk sports.
Both Catholic League guys, both LSU guys.
Fletcher went to Loyola.
Fletcher went to. I'm talking about me and you.
Oh, me and you.
Me and you. I'm not worried about it.
Look, see all this work. You see
now we're on me and you.
All this work talk.
Right,
see,
right.
I don't know.
He's all about Fletcher.
Yeah.
Hey, forget about Fletcher. I remember having you on the radio when you first got the gig, and we talked about your background. And then since you've been on this show, it's all sports. So let's get into it right now. We just talked to Kushner about the Pelicans. I have to ask your honest opinion. After they lost the 4 games last week, I made a bold prediction, say they're going to win 5 in a row. People thought I was nuts. What did you think after that? Did you think that their playoff hopes were on the wane?
I sent out a tweet that said, man, I was like, Fletcher, enjoy going to Houston because that's where they're headed to as the 8th seed. I still thought they were going to get into the playoffs.
And they still might be there.
I mean, they still might be there after all. I mean, because it's so tight right now in the
all
Western
the teams
Conference.
are winning.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly why the NBA is so great.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is why it's
Thank
great.
you.
They have that's why the ratings are out there, and it's just because of the last week of basketball. But my honest opinion, though, Scotty, I want to take you back a little bit before the losing streak. When Boogie Cousins got hurt, I honestly didn't know it was going to happen.
Sure.
I thought that they might still get into the playoffs, but I didn't think they were going to win.
Oh, I was worried.
I was
very worried.
I did not think they were going to get in the playoffs. I never thought they were going to have a 10-game winning streak and close this strong.
Well, I'm going to say this. I told this to Kushner, and he forgot about it, and he agreed. You got to remember when he got hurt, Utah was still 10 games below 500 at that point. They weren't on that roll yet where they won 25 out of 27 games. The Clippers were struggling, and then they won 30 out of 45 games. So you thought, okay, Boogie's hurt, but we're still a few games above those guys. But all of a sudden, they all started getting hot, but the Pelicans got hot with them.
Yeah, I'm really. You got to give credit to Alvin Gentry. As much as we've criticized him, and rightfully so, before he got into the season, he was on a hot seat. Sure. You didn't have a good season, you're going to be gone. And he deserves a ton of credit for righting the ship, especially after a huge injury like Boogie Cousins. You lose a guy like him,
and you change your offense completely.
And they started moving at the pace they like. They played at a very quick pace. They're going up and down the court. You're getting a lot of contributions from not just Anthony Davis. Drew Holiday really started stepping up, especially in the fourth quarter.
Incredible.
Drew has been very clutch in the fourth quarter, not just his offense. If this guy's not on an all-defensive team, I'll be really surprised the way he's played defense.
I won't be surprised, but I'll be bummed. I'll be upset because
a lot of people should
it.
be. Yeah, Alvin Gentry, after the win over the Clippers, he said, "Hey, if he's not on the first all-team defense, I'd be surprised." He said it would be a tragedy not to have him in his first team all-defense. How about Rajon Rondo? He's played really well too.
Yes, he has.
You can see the veteran leadership. That's exactly what they needed. A guy like Rondo to play that leadership role. And you have like some key role players at Etuan Moore, the Warriors. He was 7 of 7 and hit that clutch shot after Rondo had that steal. So you're getting contributions from a lot of players. Even Diallo off the bench, Okafor, and I can go on and on.
I love listening to your passion, dude. Keep it up.
Ian Clark. You're getting a lot of contributions from players that you needed to step up. You bring in Clark from the Golden State Warriors for this exact reason, and you're getting a lot of that right now.
Hopefully, he'll get healthy going into that playoffs. I know he got hurt in the end of last week. Hey, we both love basketball, and I love hearing your passion. But we know this is a football town, so I got to get into football right now with the Saints. Your first thoughts, let's do a broad question. 11-5 last season, playoff win. The mojo seems to be back. You have a formula now on offense where you're mixing up the pass with the run now. What are your thoughts as just thinking broadly, like I said, going into next season?
Heading in the right direction for sure. They got the right pieces in place. They're very young, and then, of course, they have Drew Brees. You put a lot of young, good pieces around them. Kamara, Mark Ingram's there. I know it's his last year of his contract. Michael Thomas. A lot of guys there that can really make a push in the next couple years. I like what they did in free agency. I know they didn't make that big splash in Ndamukong Suh. Everybody wanted in Ndamukong Suh, but that's $14 million. They didn't have the $14 million. Let's be honest there.
It's a puzzle. You have to fit these prices with the pieces.
But hey, the last few years they've hit. They've gotten the right guys. AJ Klein, Manti Te'o. You need players like that.
Larry
Warford, who are hungry and can fit the right, the right style and the right pieces for that offense. So I think what they did with Demario Davis was really good. I like him. I like a guy who can get to the quarterback. He can also drop back. He can affect the quarterback. Now we move forward into the NFL draft. That's going to be the big question. Also, Patrick Robinson. He's matured since he left here. That was a really good pickup.
Super Bowl ring.
You needed somebody who can play inside. An inside position and at the slot cornerback, and he can do that.
And I'm going to tell you a guy that's going to make you forget about Willie Snead if he's healthy. Cameron Meredith is the recent signing. This guy has star written all over him. He was slated for superstardom, believe it or not. I say superstardom. He was slated to be a great player. 66 catches with a ton of yards and some touchdowns just a year before. He was hurt last year, so people forgot about him. But that's a sneaky signing that the Saints got, and Drew Brees can make you look a little better than Jay Cutler did.
They really struggled on third down. Let's be honest, right? And they needed that third down receiver in here. In steps Meredith if the Bears don't match it, which I'd be shocked because the Saints did offer him a pretty high deal, 2 years, $10 million. So 6'3", a guy who had 66 receptions, almost 900 yards, 4 touchdowns in 2016.
And that's not a full season either.
No.
He didn't play the whole
time.
time.
No, he did not. He had the ACL injury in the third preseason game last season. So he can go up there and get the ball. He can stretch the field, play inside, and get you those tough yards on third down. So Saints fans should be excited if Ryan Pace and the Bears don't, match it on the
that's
Saints.
A good point. That's a good point. I forgot about the matching part. Thanks for bringing that part up.
Yeah, so they
I don't think they will, though, because they just got a couple big name receivers.
They have close $30 million in cap space. They could, but they've invested a lot of money in those positions already. So I think that it's not going to happen. I think he'll be with the Saints, and that's going to be a good pickup. It's going to be a sneaky pickup, like you said. It's a good guy to have on the offense.
No question. You mentioned Patrick Robinson, but he's one of 3 guys that the Saints had and are bringing back. Jermon Bushrod is going to play that Senio Kelemete role. I've actually seen him out and about twice already, and he just signed a couple weeks back. It's kind of funny. I was at Ruth's Chris watching the national championship with Tom Brady and Rock Bushrod. But he's coming back, and also a fan favorite, a locker room favorite, a guy we all love, and Ben Watson. Talk about those 3 guys as a whole coming back and what they can provide.
I like both signings. I know they're not long-term, obviously. They're up there in age, but high-character guys, good guys. Of course, the Saints drafted Bushrod. He married a girl from here. Like you say, you see him around town. Really nice guy. Really was a good football player for the Saints. It's a gap guy, stopgap guy. Senio's gone. He's in Houston. a good backup. You needed somebody.
And
to
a guy
back him
that
up.
you know and you're reliable. And he's now he's been playing that Swiss Army knife role in Miami and a little bit in Chicago where he's playing along the line. And when a guy goes down, how important is it to have that guy that can plug in all those offensive line positions?
You've seen throughout the years where the Saints have watched a lot of guys on the offensive line go out with injury. And
all the time.
You always need offensive linemen. That Ramczyk drafting was awesome. How clutch did that?
Think about that. How mad were fans when he got traded for the 27th pick or even later, whatever it was, 31st pick or whatever.
Last pick of the draft.
And Ramczyk comes in and starts every game and plays every single down this season.
Exactly. I remember getting the text message, why did the Saints just draft this guy? Because I was like, this guy's pretty good. That's why you just don't know with the Saints. So it's good that they have a Bushrod. Ben Watson, I know, before he left, he used to work out at the same gym I work out at. Nicest guy ever. Really nice guy.
He can't lift what you can lift, bro. I've watched you.
Yeah, right.
That guy, pound for pound, no chance.
37 years old. That guy is chiseled, man.
He is chiseled.
Really good guy, high character. He made some plays last season. A lot of plays. He made plays with Drew Brees when he was here. So to bring a guy back like that. Security blanket. I think that they're still going after a tight end in the draft.
Dallas Goedert or Mark
Hayden
Andrews.
Hurst or Mike Gesicki from Penn State. So
Gesicki.
Yeah, Gesicki.
How about Fumagalli from Wisconsin mid-round?
They're going to have. They're going for another tight end. Yeah. I mean, Ben's 37 years old, but still, I think he can produce at at a good level.
Show the way for a younger guy too.
Yeah. So that was a good move by Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton to bring back a veteran like that.
Speaking of the drafts, since you just brought that up, what needs are you looking at? I mean, honestly, the Saints are in a position, and I don't want to get into the quarterback thing because you want to win now, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to go for a guy that maybe start in 3 years.
Yeah.
It'd be great to have, but the fact is you need a guy like you got those guys last year that just produced right away, the Camaras, and obviously Ramczyk and Marshawn Lattimore, who's been a dream, a godsend to this team. What do you think they need to take them to the next level, a guy that can step in as a possible starter?
I think that they need to get a defensive end. They really Sean Payton continues to say tight end and defensive end are must-need positions, right? He said that. He's been saying that since the season's end. He's been saying that for actually 2 years now. So I think that the best player available at one of those two positions is going to get picked at 27. That's if they don't move up and do something crazy. And Baker Mayfield is sitting there at number 10 and oh, we can't pass up on Baker, future quarterback. Fletcher has talked about it. Sean Fazan's talked about it. The possibility.
Fletcher talks about a quarterback every year. Let's be honest.
Okay, but for me,
we'd have the Memphis quarterback here if it was up to him. Paxton Lynch or whatever the guy's name was. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
All right.
But to be honest with you, I am on board with you. If you're trying to win now, you have to get a player who can get in there and play right away. So I think best defensive end, best tight end available. I mean, you can't go wrong with either. Whatever one is, I think, with the positions deeper, I think maybe you wait. So,
and I think tight end's deeper.
I think it's a little bit deeper. So maybe if like a Davenport is sitting there from UT San Antonio.
Yes, he gets after it. He gets after it.
The big dude, he still has some potential to fill his frame. I think if he's there, Davenport's there at 27. Can't go wrong with him.
Frank Wilson's player, right? Frank Wilson, St. Aug guy that was obviously LSU's recruiting coordinator forever at UT San Antonio. Hey, by the way, speaking of the draft and positions, I did 7 Oklahoma games with Fox over the last 3 years, so I got to see Mark Andrews a lot, and I love him.
Good, he's good.
But I just saw some highlights of Dallas Goedert yesterday. The dude just catches the ball like Marcus Colston used to, the way he just – I don't know if this is just a select thing, but – they got some studs that they could take at that first position at 27.
You want to talk tight ends? Hayden Hurst from South Carolina and Dallas Goedert from South Dakota. I keep getting South Dakota. The Dakotas,
one of those. It could be the other one.
South Dakota State. It's where Carson went to school. There you go.
Jackrabbits.
Dallas Goedert. No matter what, he's good. I like Hayden Hurst. I like him. He's a 6'5", big guy. Goes up there and get it. He looks
all about him.
Looks like a Jeremy Shockey, maybe a little bit bigger. But I like him down to see him making big plays. A little bit old, a little bit more mature because I think he played baseball a season or two.
I'm running out of time, but I want to get LSU baseball in. LSU baseball 6-6. We've seen this before where they're kind of struggling right now, and they sometimes take off. We thought that might have been the takeoff when they won a couple 2 out of 3 at Mississippi State, but they've kind of lumbered since then. What are you thinking for the future of this team this year?
Honestly, they're 6-6. They're not.
They're 72 in the RPI. That's extremely low.
They're a little bit of a different team than last year. You lose all those leaders. No consistent hitting. There's no one in the lineup that provides that pop and power. No Lang, no Poche.
Right.
there's not really anyone in the lineup who scares you, but, the potential is there. With Zach Cass, he's getting better, and Mikhail Hilliard, really good, and he's going to get even better. He's a freshman, so we'll see how long that goes with those two. But I think they'll get better as the season goes on. I'm not sure if it's going to be like the recent years where they're a national seed.
Hey, Shays de la Shays right there on Maple.
You got it,
right
man.
Between Carrollton and Broadway. I know you know Uptown.
Yeah, absolutely. I hang out there every once in a while, man.
Check it out. Hey, it's a starter. You get you a few glasses of wine, you get your little appetizer, and roll with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate you so much.
No problem.
Sharief Ishaq, check him out on WDSU. That is obviously Channel 6. Hey, I got to run now. We're running out of time, but I want to thank Will Hill, my producer, and everybody here at CST and WLA. We appreciate you so much. See you next week.